What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Renegade here. Now, this video actually comes to you because one of my subscribers left a comment asking me to talk about this particular subject. So, Fezman, this is because of you. And for those of you who aren't Fezman, this is just proof. Comments on videos can get you far. Because he completely suggested this one. I was already thinking about it, but his suggestion made it an actual reality. Okay? Today, we're talking about this beautiful lady. My 1987 Volvo 245 DL. I love this car. So, some of this is going to be a rehash, some of it's not. Okay, I've done a couple other videos about this car. So, whatever I say that, has already been covered in a different video, I apologize. Just stick with it. Because, hey, maybe you're a new subscriber and you haven't seen this. Or maybe you just found me and you don't know anything about me yet. By the way, if you like what you see, please do subscribe. Do hit the notification bell so you get notified when I upload a new video. And as Fezman will soon be able to attest, comments and likes, I notice them, I pay attention to them, and I respond. So, little backstory. 2005, I was 17 and a half years old. I got my license, and I needed a car. My parents owned this car, I think 98, maybe, Ford Contour, and a 1993 version of this car. Well, weird situations led to us having the two wagons, and different video, different time. And I bought this one. And I paid for it what my parents paid for it. $300. Yeah, $300 for a running, operating car. Not just that, but $300 for a vintage, at the time, vintage Volvo, which will last forever. That's a score. I drove this car, like I said, first car, and because I'm poor and I'm cheap, anything that needed to be done on it work-wise, I did. So, I don't know really how to take it to a mechanic. I know that because it's a Volvo, it's an import and it's older, yeah, that's a lot of money to get work done on the car. Any mechanic sees this car roll in, they're thinking cha-ching, cha-ching, or scrap it. Neither one of which is going to happen. So anything that is done on the car, I did myself. So I worked on the car as I needed to, and while I was working at AutoZone, I kind of caught the modifying bug. So I started doing little modifications to the car. And it led to bigger modifications and a bigger plan. Of course, because that's what happens. But I drove this car for many years before anything catastrophic happened. And basically what started out as a blown head gasket became a blown valve, which became doing a valve job, and then still not getting the car running. And at this point it was mostly stock. Like I put a cold air intake on it. We'll do an engine bay walkthrough in a minute. I done a cold air intake on it, and that was about it at that point. And kind of sucked to have it down for so long. At that point, I had actually moved out, and I was doing a lot of work at the house where I was living. A lot of people living there. I had a job which was taking a lot of time. I didn't really have time to try and diagnose the car because I was just chasing my tail. So I did take it to a mechanic. At the time, then, girlfriend's suggestion. Alright, the guy was an idiot. He told me the motor was blown. Get rid of it. It'll cost you, I think he quoted me at like $3.5 grand to, do a motor swap on it. And the car is just not worth it. I think he said, the car is not really worth it, but I'll tell you what, I know a guy who's willing to buy it if you just want to unload it. Yeah. Scam! he knew what he was looking at. So, yeah. So basically all my big modifications came from that point forward. Now my family loves these cars, in fact so much so that at the time this was all going down, my sister had a 1986 sedan, Volvo 240 sedan. My mom had a 93 Volvo 240 wagon. My dad had an 89 Volvo 240 sedan, and I had the 87 Volvo 240 wagon. Yeah, we got 4 240s. People thought we were nuts. There were many people that actually referred to us as the Volvo family. I guess I can kind of see why. But my dad's car had issues. The previous owner had beat the piss out of it, and the suspension was shot. Like, the guy had beaten on it so hard and abused the suspension so hard that the Pinard bar was actually twisted. I don't know how he did it. I didn't really want to know either because it kind of scares me. But at the same time, my dad's clutch went. He had a manual car. This was an automatic. Well, I always wanted to do a manual conversion on my car. And now, thanks to some moron's advice, I thought my motor was dead. So I was thinking I need a new motor. My dad's like, well, I need a whole new suspension. This isn't going to work. I'll sell you the car. Well, I will sell you the drivetrain and everything you need to get your car running. All right. Deal. So I bought a 1989 motor, manual transmission, pedal box, and drive shaft. Everything I needed to plop into this car to make it go and be a manual transmission. Then I realized I'm not entirely 100% sure how to go about doing this. So that was fun. Turns out Volvo made it stupid easy. Pardon the mess, I haven't cleaned the car in a while. So now, 3 pedals. Gear shifter. Obviously wanting a manual transmission car, now I'm happy. So I drove that for a while, with that setup, and like I said, that motor was well beaten up. And at one point, the motor threw a rod. Turns out one of the thrust bearings was beat to high hell, and it caused the crankshaft to become unbalanced, which threw the first rod through the block. But that led to me investigating the original motor, the 87 motor, because I'm a pack rat and a junkyard dog and I don't throw anything away because I'm insane. And I took it apart and realized, oh, it was just a groove in the head connecting cylinder 1 to cylinder 2. That's why the damn car wouldn't run. Unfortunately, now the motor's been sitting for a few years, and yeah, it got funky, of course. So I stripped apart the motor and I rebuilt it. Put a different head on it. Had the head machine, the whole 9 yards, you know. And bolted that up to the manual transmission. So, at the time, we were estimating the motor to be at about 500,000 miles. And the transmission to be at about 400,000. I've obviously driven it quite a lot since then. So now, what resides in this car is the original 1987 B230F motor with a 1989 M47 manual transmission. Hey, it works, you know? Now, how difficult is it to do a transmission swap on a 240? Really, really easy. First of all, when you take the motor and the transmission out of the car, unbolt the automatic transmission from the motor. Then unbolt the flywheel. Now take your manual flywheel and bolt it on to the crankshaft, and then bolt the manual gearbox on. Yeah, it's the same bolt pattern. You don't need an adapter plate. You just bolt it on. Awesome. Now, transmission is a different size, so I did need to use the, like a different length. So I did need to use the drive shaft from the manual car, which, by the way, pretty much bolts up the same way. It, you know, bolts the exact same differential, so the flange is correct, just bolt it in. I apologize now if I sound a little funky. I'm dealing with some sinus issues. Happens every time I get back from Washington, D.C. So you put the motor and the transmission into the car. You put the manual drive shaft on. Great. Now how do you control it? Well, you got to put in a different pedal box. Now the pedal boxes in these cars are the gas pedal, the accelerator, and the brake, or the brake and clutch pedal. Here's where I started to panic a little bit and thought it was going to be a bit involved. But it wasn't. Allow me to show you the brilliance of Volvo as best I can. Now sadly, this is, excuse me, sadly I was doing this before I had a digital camera, before I thought about YouTube and everything, so I don't have a whole lot of video of this stuff. Reach up under here, take this down. Okay. So there is my pedal box. Best I can show you. It's bigger than the one that's just the brake pedal, but the bolts were already there. The bolt holes were already there. They just had a couple plugs in them. So undo the plugs, remove them, and bolt in the new pedal. It was simple. And then you just got to run your cable, because this is a cable clutch. This is not a hydraulic clutch, although I got a buddy who did one on he got a 960. He did a transmission swap on that, and he said that was dumb easy too, because Volvo made everything pretty much the same and easily adapted for whichever one you had. Lazy or smart, you be the decider. Obviously, my wiring is a mess. Sue me. I'll take the time one of these days to clean it up. It's fine. No one sees it. Now, my next big concern was the shifter. How's that going to work? Well, as it turned out, they positioned the shifter in the manual transmission cars in the exact same place as the automatics. Now, the automatics have, you know, of course, the basic Prindle shifter. And in these cars, they sit in a bucket. And in that bucket, of course, is the linkage attachment, your neutral safety switch, and basically just this big metal bucket. It's kind of stupid, kind of like a cup. And it bolts in with 4 bolts. You unbolt that, you take everything out, take the neutral safety switch, and you throw it in your garage, because save it for later, you never know. When you unplug the neutral safety switch, it's 2 wires. And you just have to go to the connector and jump those 2 connectors with a little piece of wire. It's how it's done on the stock wiring harness for a manual transmission. Why that's the one. That's how they did it. Talk about easy, huh? Then, of course, the only difficult part is you have to take the wires that you have for your neutral safety switch, which go to your reverse lights, and run them to the 2-prong connector on your transmission. But it's not too hard. A couple bullet connectors. But you undo the bucket, you take it out of the car, and you're left with a hole. Hey, look, that's my shifter. I got to do some work on that one of these days too. But this big rubber boot, which is the stock coverage, yeah, that bolts up using the exact same 4 bolt holes. So some of the other things I've done here, and like I said, some of this might be a recap. Custom upholstery that I made. That's why it's not perfect. This is black denim. Why denim? it wears like iron. And it's comfortable. I love it. As you can tell, the back seat isn't fully done yet. We'll get there. But, yeah. Let me say this. I also, just because it's me, you know, put the red accents on. Because why not? Oh yeah, I love that engine bay. It's simple. As I said, this is the stock motor for this car. An 87 B230F motor. When I had it apart, and I rebuilt it, and I did rebuild everything. Like new gaskets, new rings, new bearings, the whole 9 yards. I figured while I had it all apart, I'd put a performance camshaft in there from IPD. And I'll have a link in the description for any of the websites that I used. Now, a lot of the parts I got for the actual rebuild of the car, the rebuild of the motor, I got from either FCP Euro, IPD USA, or Auto House AZ. As I said, links all in the description in case you need them. So I put the performance camshaft in. I also have, I think you can see the label. This is an MSD blaster coil, and of course the resistor pack that you need for it to run an ignition like this. Now, I tidied up some of the wires because it was a mess. It's still not perfect, but it's a little bit neater. That's why if you're looking at this and you're like, hey, my wires don't look like his. Yeah, mine aren't exactly the way they're supposed to be stock. They still work, it's what matters. Now you might notice these red bars. Yes, I put strut bracing in my car. You can buy strut bracing for these cars. They're not cheap. One of the problems. So I made mine. I took some steel, I cut it, I bent it, I welded it. Ta-da! I've got a strut bar that goes from the strut tower to the strut tower, and I've got these GT style strut braces that go from the strut tower to the firewall. Oh, by the way, that's how I ran my clutch cable. I just drilled a hole in my firewall. Done! That piece actually bolts out, so if you really wanted to, if you had the motor transmission out, you could theoretically unbolt your firewall and bolt in one from the manual car, but it's just easier to drill a hole and run your cable through it. Done deal. Made these, put them in, stiffened up my front suspension, causes less roll. Now, of course, I did the other things, like I put in polyurethane sway bar bushings, because why not? Mine were shot, they were rubber. Upgrade when you got them. I am currently running a 3-bar fuel pressure regulator and fuel rail. There's a reason for that. It's for a project coming up, you know, down the road. Of course, I've been saying that for like 10 years, so yeah. But actually, honestly, soon I will be doing it, I promise. Okay, there's my long ram cold air intake. Kind of hard to see. You can tell it's long ram, which means it goes all the way down. It means I get colder, denser air than the air that's up here at the top of my engine compartment, because I'd rather get colder, denser air. It works better that way. Under the car, you see that bar right there? There's one on the other side too that matches it. Those are lower chassis tie bars. They actually remove any of the last little bit of flex between your chassis and your control arm mounts, and the effect it has on your car is amazing. It makes it run like it's on rails. It's amazing, man. Now, some of you Volvo guys might notice my car sits a lot lower than normal. Well, not a lot lower, but it's significantly lower. Because suspension-wise, I went with IPD lowering springs. Lower the car just a little bit. I didn't want to go crazy, but it did sit awfully high, so I dropped it down just a smidge. So I got the lowering springs from IPD. I went with Bilstein touring class struts and shocks because I want an upgrade, but I didn't want to go crazy. I mean, it's a road car. I'm not racing it. And of course, it also meant that because I lowered the car, the axle was slightly shifted over, so I had to get the adjustable Panhard bar to pull the axle back to being square with the car. Some people forget about that, but I don't, because I remember all my little details, because I'm crazy. One of the other things I did was, I've got this great motor, runs steady, runs strong, and now I got a performance camshaft, I got a performance ignition coil, got a cold air intake, needs to breathe out better. So I upgraded my my exhaust. Now I didn't go crazy. Plenty of people upgrade to a big, fat, exhaust pipe. I just switched out my mufflers. I went with performance MagnaFlow mufflers and a catalytic converter. Now, they don't sell them for this car, but I basically just measured and found a muffler that I needed that fit the dimensions I was looking for. So, now I've got a performance exhaust. That's simple. I do love the way this car looks. Other little detail things I've done. I tinted the windows. This is a 35% tint. Darkens it inside, cools it down just a smidgen. All the chrome is stock. I switched over to retro style badges and I added these. These are amber side marker lights. Very Euro. These are amber side marker lights. They also double as a turn signal when my turn signals are on. Very Euro. And one of the cool things I love about this is that the hole for this, because this car was sold in Europe and had these stock, although this particular design is from a 960, I believe, the hole was already in the fender. There's normally a big black square back Volvo badge right here. Take it off, clean off the adhesive, you'll find a hole right here that this goes into. So you just run the wires to it and ta-da! Of course, because I got rid of those badges, I wanted new badges. And we happened to randomly have some vintage badges lying around. Volvo. I also got these off the internet, off of eBay, and got Dave Barton to hook me up with some vinyl inlays to change what this badge says to what the car actually is now. And of course, you can't have vintage in the front and not vintage in the back. So I switched over to the vintage in the back too. Yeah, I'm that guy. I also did put in LED headlights. They're nice and bright and clear. Of course, I also replaced my lenses. Things like that, they make little touches, but they do wonders. But unfortunately, right now, the car is a little bit of a mess. I haven't cleaned it a bit. I have an event coming up this weekend that I will be cleaning the car for because it's a Volvo meetup. Sort of a Volvo meetup. And, well, with that type of thing, you always want your car to look nice. So I will give it a clean. So what do you guys think? Obviously, I can't show you a lot of the videos of me doing it because I wasn't recording myself when I did a lot of the stuff. It was pre-camera. But I got the photos I showed you. Hopefully they kind of give you an idea. I do have a couple projects, a couple upgrades that I want to do. They're coming in time. Don't worry. But yeah, for right now, that's where this car is. It's been an interesting journey to get the car to where it is right now, but I am more than pleased with it. I love this car to death. And in case anyone's ever curious, no, it's not for sale. And no, I'm not getting rid of it to get a new car. Don't ask me stupid questions. So as always, guys, I hope you all enjoyed. If you have any comments or any questions, please leave them down in the comment section. I'll get to them. I'll either respond, or maybe if it's something that I think would make a great video, I'll get into the video. So until next time, guys, y'all keep rocking and rolling. I'm going to keep taking care of business. And I'll see y'all on the next one.